Good afternoon, everyone. Rolling right along with the coaching interviews. I have Howell head coach Jay Santopietro. Thank you for joining me, Jay.
Nick, pleasure. It's Joe.
Oh, Joe. Sorry. Why did I
Joe.
put Joe? I
No worries.
apologize for that. Is it
No
you?
problem.
Oh,
This individual.
that's my fault. My fault.
Absolutely.
How you doing today? You guys had your first scrimmage. How did everything look for you yesterday?
I was just talking to right before this, ups and downs. I think that most coaches are going through the same situation I am. Normally you have 3 or 4 scrimmages before a season. And because we have a different situation this year, you're running into, time constraints. So with one scrimmage, I think that we had our positives. But, some of the things that definitely stood out because of the current situation is conditioning. We had a couple people that were, sucking a little wind yesterday, which was to be expected. But, I think that really deals with what happened with COVID and the pandemic. I do have certain players that, you could see have trained, in the off season, have been involved maybe in a fall sport like soccer. Two of my main in, Bruno and Gresco, amongst some others, so they ran around a little bit in the fall, but it's not that natural progression from, getting into the summertime, working out with multiple practices, playing in a true summer league, getting into the fall, and then transitioning all the way through where they're running around both basketball and outside of that. So, we were definitely sucking some wind yesterday, but, I think that'll hopefully, fix itself as we continue on moving forward.
Before we get into this season, I like to ask coaches, last season, what was your goal and your message to the team when the season started last year?
Last year, it was just take another step. And that's kind of been my motto and message since I took over here. I know you said you're familiar with Howell as far as sports are concerned, and there's been the ups and downs. It's kind of a roller coaster ride. There's been some consistency over a few years here and there, but then there seemed to be a little bit of a drop. So when I took the team over, that was really my goal, was to, kind of make it my own, get things on the right track, become somewhat of a reputable program, or at least a recognizable program. So people are at least talking about us, consistently every season as somebody who is competitive. And that's really what we tried to do, and going from some of our main players in their sophomore year, which I thought, we continued to build, leaving behind Jess O'Brien, graduating, and Alexis Post, which were great leaders for us. And to tell you the truth, that was probably one of my favorite seasons, in my coaching career here at Howell. But I wanted to build upon that, now that we have Leary, we have Gresco and Bruno, as upperclassmen, we were looking to take that next step. And I think in some regards we did that. But, in other aspects, obviously I was left disappointed, and I could bring up a few things, but, you talk about the way the year started. Obviously we went against Freehold Township, which is a big rivalry between us and the district. And I know you know the whole story behind it, but you have some of our girls who play on the same AAU team. And some of the girls at Freehold Township, they're all very friendly. They've grown up together, and for the most part, naturally being redistricted, now you're competing against one another at least 2 games in the season when we were playing a normal schedule in A North. So that was always a big thing. You don't want to start off the season with a loss, especially against them, because it eats at you a little bit more. But then when we went into the Christmas tournament with the Shore Regional Classic, that Will runs, which is a great job by him. We ended up winning. I saw his interview and he brought it up, the fact that it was back-to-back. So for us, it was great. We were back-to-back champs. We actually expected, and I think Will would probably even say this, that, Freehold Township thought that they were going to end up playing us in the championship. And it just so happened that both years, Shore was able to beat up Township in that semifinal game. And then we played them. But this year, I know Will talked about it. It was close. We dropped down. I think we were down like almost 15 points at one point. And we were able to, to come back, fix and clean up a few things. And then it went to the buzzer, and Leary drove to the basket and won it with a buzzer beater. So definitely.
I'm glad you brought that game up, because I was going to bring that game up, but it has to be, exciting, the fans and the players being, I always like a game where any team's trailing by a lot and they complete the comeback, and it goes right down to the buzzer. So that had to be an exciting game to be, on the sideline watching, and probably a little nerve-wracking too, but that had to be a good game to be at.
Yeah, no, it was good, and I know a couple of the coaches talked about this, but sometimes we don't always get a huge fan base, in a normal setting. So it was nice to actually have people, sitting around cheering, people that weren't even involved in the game, or maybe the team had lost the prior day, and they stayed around because it was, a more exciting environment than, I think both of us were used to. So that was a good situation for us and the girls.
Yeah, that's great. Especially it's great when the kids, boys or girls, get to feel that type of environment. Because to me, there's nothing like high school sports in a crowded gym. Fans
It's
going
awesome.
nuts.
It is awesome.
Another game I want to bring up, looking at the score, it looks similar. The Colts Neck Shore Conference game. You guys won by 5. Can you talk a little bit about that game?
Yeah, obviously it's a big thing for us. Like I said, that's when I say we're taking another step forward. Our goal, we don't always want to just, go for the big goal and say, oh, we're going to win a state championship. Obviously, every coach would say, yeah, they want to accomplish that. But for us and where we were at when I took over, like I said before, it was just small goals, build upon it. You know what I mean? Try to get a winning record. Try to make states, try to make Shore Conference. And we wanted to be consistent in that because we knew Howell had done that in the past occasionally, but that started to drop off a little bit. So, we wanted to start getting into the party now, but then starting to make a little bit of noise. So for us to be able to win that game last year, and I think a year or two prior, we had beaten, I think it was Donovan Catholic. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was Donovan Catholic in the Shore Conference. In the same situation, I think we were looked at as underdogs, and, we like to use that as motivation. But same type of thing. We were up for the most part in that game, and then we did fall off a little bit. We had a little bit of a dry spell as far as shooting was concerned. We got quality shots up, but we couldn't hit anything for a little while. And then, it was a team effort coming back. But the big thing, and I can even say that, the coaches over at Colts Neck, pointed this out because they follow our girls as well. And they said how impressed they were with Gresco kind of taking over, at a certain point in that game and willing us to help us win. But, for us to beat them and like I said, considered an upset was a big deal. Unfortunately, you move on to the next round and you play St. Rose. But to tell you the truth, as much as anybody would say, oh, they had no chance, they had no reason being there, whatever, that's the experience we want. Yeah. Obviously, you like winning games, but you like winning games against competitive teams.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can get ourselves where we're consistently competitive and we're starting to get into that ring, that's obviously the goal. So beating a team like Colts Neck, especially, with a great player like Cam Foltz, last year, that was a big thing. So, that was our game plan to try to take her out and then let everybody else try to beat us.
Yeah, I saw Colts Neck once, and she put up like 35 or 36. Yeah. It was at Middletown North during that autism event that they run over there. Right. She's just such an impressive, scorer, and she tried. What impressed about her, obviously she's 9 times out of 10 she's going to be the best player on the court, and she tries to get everyone else involved too. She just, she doesn't try to force it all on herself, which is, good to see. I want to bring up, you kind of touched on it, Howell, the Freehold school district, regional school district it's very complicated where kids go, and Howell, Howell loses kids to the privates, but they also, with the way the lines are drawn, kids go to Freehold, kids go to Colts Neck, and then you got these special programs you can sign up for that also. Just talk about that and the difficulty to get some consistency, where the kids are playing at a younger level together, and then when they get to after 8th grade, they could be playing middle school together, and then all of a sudden they're deciding whether they're going to Freehold or Colts Neck or Howell.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it does add to the aspect of rivalries. When you're playing together from a young age, whether it be, mid-mamas and all-stars, even rec basketball all the way through with the AAU program. So a lot of the kids that are in the same area might end up being on the same team. So that, is great. But the downfall of that is, you naturally lose some kids. And I know you mentioned things with the private school. And we've, in the past, not even when I'm coaching, but even prior to, there's been kids who have gone to SJV and some of the private schools, which again, is always going to happen. But for us, the reason why we take an even bigger hit is because Howell ends up being the biggest school in the district, Freehold Regional. So with that being said, it seems like it would be a good thing, right? Because we do have a lot of athletes growing up here. We have a lot of feeder programs in all sports.
Mm-hmm.
But then what ends up happening, naturally, like you mentioned before, depending on how the lines are drawn as far as redistricting goes, you could lose some of the solid basketball players to go to a township or to go to a Colts Neck. We don't lose as many to, Marlboro and Alpin just because that's where the lines are drawn. But Colts Neck and Freehold Township for years has been a big issue. And again, there's really nothing we could do about it. You could sit there and you could say, hey, come to one of these special ed programs in Howell. But if they're not interested in one of those things that we offer, as opposed to another school, you run into trouble. But outside of those programs, there's not a lot of wiggle room. So I bring up Freehold Township. I'm friendly with Coach Stoya, but even over there, we joke all the time. But some of my main girls play with some of their main girls on AAU, and they're all from Howell. So when you look at it that way, you sit there and you say, well, my team could have, both of our teams almost combined. You'd feel good about that. And that's not to say I don't feel good about my own team right now, but what you learn to deal with is basically whatever cards I'm dealt, I'm going to run with and make the best of it. I never sit there and pout about it. And you're going to try to build whatever comes through here.
Yeah. I mean, for people that don't know that are going to end up listening to this has been going on since I graduated high school. Because my sister would have been a freshman. Yeah. And so my sister would have been a freshman in 98 and in the fall of 98. So this is how long, and with the redistricting.
And the lines have changed a little bit as well over the years.
Because I remember it used to be just the one side of 9 used to be Freehold, for Howell. Right. And when my sister played soccer, half her team lived on that side of 9, so they naturally got separated, and they had a pretty good club team they got all split up, and unfortunately my sister was one of the ones who went to a private school, but
it happens.
Yeah, but it seemed, because Howell is so big and, populated, they get the short end of the stick when it comes to the district. But there's still some, great talent in all the sports. And like you said, they're seems like, their Pop Warner program's strong, their basketball rec program's good. Their soccer, I'm very familiar with the soccer program because I, grew up in it. Right. So, I mean, those are, the main sports. I know, they got a strong baseball program, and, and Howell's usually pretty strong. Even when they lose kids to other schools, there's always pretty strong in the baseball. Right. So, that just tells you how much talent does come out of Howell, that, they are, going to different schools, but, Howell's still, very competitive in all the sports. Right. I want to start going through your roster. Obviously, we'll start with the seniors, Grace and Gresco. I had the pleasure of interviewing Caitlyn probably right before soccer season. It was somewhere during either the summer league or the fall, one of the fall leagues. And multi-sport athlete, like we talked about. She plays soccer. She's very talented in soccer. And like you said, you brought up in the Shore game. Was it the Shore game you said she took over, or was it the
Colts Neck? I mean, she's always a contributor, but the Colts Neck game in the Shore Conference tournament, like I said, everybody contributed and made big plays, but it was definitely a stretch. I want to say in the early portion of the fourth quarter, we were down, where she made a run, a couple and ones, making big shots, big plays on defense. So, it definitely was nice to see her step up as a leader, which again, she's been since she's come into the program. She didn't play as much as a freshman. She got some time. But, we were always looking for her and some of the others to kind of, make it their own and be the leaders, for the future, the next 3 years after their freshman year.
I'll ask this first. What do you hope that, her, Grace, and Mackenzie Bruno, and, Cassie pass on to the younger kids?
It's really just I'll say the momentum that we had. And like I said, there were certain things that, we wish we could get back. But I think we did start to take steps in the right direction where we are relevant. We were a threat to some very competitive teams, whether we actually beat them or, fell a little short. But really now it's just kind of finish the job. I think that's the message I want them to send. I know this year, kind of puts a little damper on things. We were looking to make a little bit more of an impact in A-North, be more competitive in that whole situation, not only getting to states, but wanting to take that next step into actually, getting a home state game and winning a home state game. So that's really the message that we're trying to, push for the next crop of kids is, take what we started, continue on, and now you be the ones that, get to the states and win that game. And hey, we were a part of it, and now you're just going to push it forward into the future.
Yeah, I think when I talked to Caitlyn, this, like I said, this was end of the summer. I told her, I was high on the team this season, and it is a disappointment that it is a short season because a good core of seniors coming back. Every team likes to have that leadership.
Absolutely.
What do you expect, to see out of Caitlyn? I'll go through all the players, but what type of role and what do you expect out of her this season?
Well, all three of the girls, actually 4 girls that you mentioned, those seniors, they've been around the program for a little while, had a little bit more time. So, they know the system, they know the culture and what they've been trying to create. But, Gresco specifically, she's been that inside out girl, sometimes, you know, people, oh, she a true center, you know, but she could shoot the three and she likes to drive. So, you know, we run a lot of 5 out or a lot of 4 out, 1 in, you know, so she'll be our big girl, you know, but when you look at some other big girls from the other schools, you know, we don't get as many that are, you know, over 6 feet tall, but, you know, the benefit is, you know, even though she lacks a little bit of height, when you say the traditional center, like I said, she can go outside. You know, it allows us to get some mismatches with somebody who might have a little bit of slower center, you know, so she can bring them outside and drive on them. Or if they give her space, she can make the jump shot all the way out to the 3, you know, but we just, you know, hopefully, again, same thing I said before, taking that next step, you know, she's already been a main scorer, I think averaging about 13 points a game at this point, you know, so, you know, getting that jump and, you know, I know you didn't ask this, but, you know, one thing that definitely hurts me, you know, for this season and the situation, and I know we can't get it back, but, you know, both her and Grace more than likely would have been up for 1,000 points this year. So, you know, if they would have repeated, you know, the same exact season they had last year, I think they need a little over 300 points on the season. But when you're playing 25 to 27 games or something like that, you know what I mean? It's a lot easier to accomplish. And now to explain that to a, you know, to a 17-year-old kid is difficult where, you know, for us, you know, it's special no matter what at any school. But for us, you know, we haven't had a 1,000-point female scorer probably since 1970, you know, so for that to be able to actually, you know, to occur, especially with both of them now and the mindset of trying to change the program and the culture, that would have been something special. And I know I can't give that to them. So that, you know, that kills me. And I know it eats at them a little bit, but we know we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you know, I've spoken to a few players that, you know, are around that 300-point mark that, you know, they, you know, just going off last season, they would probably hit it. And, it's, you know, I feel for those kids. You know, you brought up Grace, you know, great point guard, you know, good at getting to the hoop too, you know, getting, you know, just talk a little bit about Grace and, you know, what are you expecting out of her this season?
You know, same deal. You know, she took on a little bit of a different role. You know, we say leadership with Gresco, Bruno, and Conti from a team aspect. But for Grace, you know, after her freshman year where she didn't get as much time because we had a senior point guard that was getting a little bit more time, you know, she stepped in that role. And I basically said, you know, this is your team. You know, you need this to be your team. You need to dictate what goes on. I don't know how much you've ever talked to Grace. I know, you know, she trains a lot of hoop group with Tiny. You know, I said before she plays AAU, you brought up Bob before. He's also one of the coaches along with her father on that AAU team. But it was really just, you know, you don't have to be a wordy player. You know, you don't have to be somebody who's always verbal because, you know, we talk about that all the time as far as different types of leaders. And I told Grace, you know, speak up when you need to speak up. I said, but even if you don't think you need to talk a lot, just show it through your actions. You know, so for her, I think that she started to take that personally and say, you know what, I am going to put the team on my shoulders in many cases. You know, she prides herself on that, being a great ball handler and getting to the basket. And I think, you know, anybody could see that's tracked us over the last few years. Her progression from year to year, I mean, is crazy, you know, as far as how much better she's gotten. And again, that's a testament to herself as far as her hard work, because like I said, she didn't play as much freshman year. And I think she wanted to make it known that, you know what, this is going to be my program and I am going to be somebody who's up for 1,000 points. And it doesn't mean I'm just going to shoot a million shots. You know, I'm going to be somebody who can distribute and drive off of that. But, you know, she definitely is a scoring point guard as well.
Yeah. You know, just her aggression, getting to the hoop is what stood out the games. You know, I got to catch the last season.
Yes.
And to me, her and Gresco complement each other nicely too.
They're a nice 1-2 combo, especially with a pick and roll. You know, and again, it does tell you a lot about what's going on in the offseason. You know, when they are playing together in an AAU situation or they're training together or maybe just shooting around, a lot of them will just get together because they're such close friends. You know, you get that extra work. So that's where, like I said, you know, a situation like this, even though they're so close, maybe they didn't get to spend as much time together working out. And it does, you know, it does set you back a little bit, but hopefully, you know, that could be accelerated in the next few weeks.
The next senior, you know, Mackenzie Bruno, you know, I know another multi-sport, led the team in rebounds last season. You know, 200 plus points, nice season. What do you expect out of her this season?
Hopefully the same thing. I think she averaged about 8 points, if I'm correct, as far as we are right now. And again, I think her biggest thing in the beginning was, and she'd had this conversation with me multiple times as far as what's my role? You know, you see somebody like Gresco and Leary who, naturally can score that basketball, and Bruno can as well.
Yeah.
But we all know the deal with most teams. There's only one ball to go around, right? So everybody wants to score points and get in the paper and have interviews with you. But in that same breath, I tell my kids all the time, and I know a lot of other coaches share the same sentiment, the fact that, I'd almost rather have somebody who has, 10 rebounds a game and 10 assists a game. Yes, I want you to score points, but if you could fill another role, and we have a bunch of role players, that's really what gives you longevity as far as wins. Obviously everybody can get lucky, strike gold, and say, hey, I got an awesome player who could score 20 points in a game. But sooner or later, we know that there's going to be game planning, especially on the varsity level, to take that player out of big games, right? So in that situation, I think that's really what we're looking for Bruno to do, because she's always contributed. And like you said, last year, a lot with the rebounding. So hopefully that continues. And then she's able to pick her spots where, she can go off, for 15, 20 points in a game. So that's the thing. And I think she's really started to settle into that role and understand that, she can be inside and be productive inside as well. And that's when we can also bring Gresco outside, when we put Bruno in. So hopefully that continues.
Your last senior, Cassie, what do you expect? She had 100 points last season. What do you expect out of her this season?
She's the motor. Everybody wants that type of kid.
Yeah.
I grew up in Staten Island. I know her family's from Staten Island, so she's got a little bit of that fire. I can tell you that her mom is the same exact way, great lady. But, you get that energy, so no one's ever being nasty or needs to fight anybody, but you want that kid that's not going to back down. And I'm sure you've seen she's not the tallest person in the world. We joke around and call her Mighty Mouse, but she does. She brings the energy. She's feisty. She'll fight you for every single ball. And our big thing is, and I tell her all the time, same thing with Bruno, do the little things, because sometimes that is going to be more impactful than anything else that you could score in the hoop. It's contagious when somebody, gets a big play on defense, dives for a loose ball, something like that, gets a tie up, and everybody starts to feed off of that. And you can see how the game changes just because of that one player and that energy that they bring. So hopefully she does that and just, even more and builds upon it.
Yeah. Moving down, to your junior class, I'm going to start with Mackenzie Green. At the end of the season, I did a bunch of random lists, and I listed her as one of the players that I look forward most to, seeing her development from sophomore to junior year. Unfortunately, she got hurt. Did she get hurt at the end of the season? Or
I want to say it was like the second or third to last game of the season before we went to state. She had actually torn her ACL.
Okay. I know, communicating, with, Caitlyn, while we were doing the interviews, she was unsure if, Mackenzie was going to be ready, but, season was pushed back. You told me yesterday that, she's been cleared. What do you expect out of her? Do you think you're going to have to ease her in? Because, that is a serious injury.
Yeah, the thing with this, I guess from her end, I know she wished there were a regular season, because she probably would have still played in the season. Yeah. But it would have been a slower progression to get back in because of COVID and bumping things back. Now she was officially cleared. So, we had gone through, how much she could actually do. We spoke to the doctors. We gave her full clearance as far as, she had been through rehab. So she'd been running a little bit and working it out. Just from my own personal standpoint, I obviously am keeping a close eye on it. I monitor it, and sometimes she gets a little annoyed at the fact that, I'm always asking, does it hurt? Are you okay? And sometimes it's better off. You want to be safe. Yeah. But sometimes when you worry about it too much, it almost makes it worse. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, it does.
You're just always worried about it. But, she's looked good so far. Not just her specifically, but like I mentioned with the conditioning, if you haven't ran on your leg normally, for however many months and going through a serious injury like a torn ACL, even for herself, she's got to get back into the groove, being on the court. She did play yesterday. She played a decent amount yesterday. But that's really going to be the challenge for her, is just getting back into the flow, game speed, making sure she feels comfortable on her leg. But, so far everything's looked great, knock on wood. So hopefully that continues.
What impressed me, during the summer league and fall league, she showed up to every event I was at. She was there supporting her team. That has to be tough. Like you said, these girls, 15, 16, 17, not being able to go be out there with your teammates and stuff. Right. But that just, so impressive, to see that she was there every week supporting her team. She was a very good three-point shooter last season, but what stood out to me too was how many times she got her hand in the passing lane, and whether tipping it off or stealing for a fast break. Do you think? Do you believe she is a strong defender, because she is such a great three-point shooter too?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think the first thing that sticks out most people talk about is the three-point shot, especially against a team that plays zone. She's great to have off on the wing. You know what I mean? You're swinging the ball around quick, and she's able to knock it down. You mentioned in that short conference tournament, that short regional tournament, Christmas tournament, she was able to kind of propel us over Sayreville, a game prior to heading towards, the semifinals and the finals. So for that side of the ball, she's great. Defensively, you're mentioning exactly what I would say. I always tell my kids, nobody's perfect on defense right now. We always need to get better. But yeah, she has a knack for getting in passing lanes, and that's what we try to promote, especially I mentioned before, not really having a true big. We have a lot of guards. So from our aspect, the more feisty we could be on defense, the more aggressive we could be, and try to run a fast break. We want to try to get as many easy points as we possibly can. So more we could push the tempo with a kid like Green, amongst some others, like I mentioned with Conti, we definitely want to do that. So hopefully that just continues as well.
You had one other sophomore, Bree. What do you expect? Do you think she'll have a bigger role this season?
Yeah, absolutely. To tell you the truth, yesterday in the scrimmage, she actually probably played more than I intended on putting her in. But Bree, to tell you the truth, I know I keep saying the same thing for the last three girls, but it's just constant energy. And I try to explain that to her as well. As she also is a soccer player, so she's always running around on the soccer field. But just her more so from the rebounding aspect. She's a shorter kid, but the fact is she has a knack for getting to the ball off the rim. So she's always flying to the ball, and then again pushing the pace. That's the biggest thing. So I want to see her involved more in the game plan. I think she will be more involved in the game plan. But there was also a kid last year. I don't know if you have her down, Carrie DeStefano.
Yeah, I was going to bring her up next.
Oh, yeah, was a freshman last year. And just to bring up, bouncing off of Green going out with the ACL, she ended up actually stepping up and starting towards the back end of the season. So she had always gotten a little bit of playing time here and there. But to tell you the truth, to step in a role as a freshman, work alongside Grace, either taking the ball up or being the off guard, and then stepping up and, playing Hillsborough. And she had a great game against Hillsborough in the playoffs. And again, we ended up coming up a little short, but I thought we played really well. And that's what I said. That's really the hump we're trying to get over. Stop saying, we're just competitive with some quality teams now. Now let's get over that hump and just be consistent with winning those games.
Yeah, it looked like she contributed quite a bit. She finished with 77 points but your team having a junior heavy class that are all all could score. To me that's actually an impressive stat. As a freshman. Yeah. With you had 1, 2, 3, 4. You had 5 people score over 100 points, and then her at 77. That's an impressive stat. Any other returners that I'm missing?
Yeah, we have Avery Tonino. Again, she was a freshman last year. She's a sophomore, and same thing. Got a little bit of exposure on varsity. We wanted to make sure that she was acclimated to the game, but same thing. Taller kid actually has a little bit more, I think, potential coming in the future. I think once she settles in and finds her own game, her big thing right now, she questions herself a little too much, and I try to get that out of her head where, you do have some of these older leaders on the team. And I think it's a natural situation to sit there and say, should I shoot this? Should I not shoot this? Kids always go through that. Or even is my coach going to get mad at me for something? And I try to settle her down and I say, you have so much to offer. I see it in practice. I've seen it before when I went to, a couple middle school games when they were in 8th grade. But just the fact of the matter is that, she's going to be part of the future. Harry's going to be part of the future. Some of these younger girls are really going to now inherit this team and take over next season. And, we'll see where it goes. I'm excited about it. I think it'll be a different style possibly. But I think same thing, they all are familiar with each other. They've either played in middle school or Mid-Monmouth All-Stars. So I'm excited about that as well.
How about any incoming freshmen?
Incoming freshmen, as far as freshmen that are in the program right now?
That you think that are going to have roles?
This year, probably not. I'd say maybe next year, with the COVID situation, I know a lot of coaches talked about this. I know certain schools are handling it different ways because of numbers. But for us, we want to try to preserve as much as we can of this season, whatever it may be. So, we don't practice together. In years past, we might have had varsity and JV together, but we're in separate gyms. So all 3 levels practice separately, so they're never around one another. So really in the past where we might have had somebody with potential to swing either from, freshman to JV or JV to varsity, we're kind of curbing that a little bit more this year. to protect from COVID, just to make sure nobody gets, cross-contamination, if you will. So, that's really the issue right now. But, there's definitely some potential. And even on JV, girls that we had from last year on freshmen, because they're not going to get as much time on varsity this year. They're playing their games on JV. They'll get, hopefully a full schedule like us out of the ones that we have out of the 12. And then, they're the ones that we're looking to fill spots next year and take over and realize what varsity basketball is all about.
I was pulling up your schedule or the teams you're playing.
Right.
Weird they stuck you with
right?
all Ocean County teams.
Yeah, I don't know if that was because, even when I was coaching football, they do that sometimes where we'll be in Central for states, but then when they put us in South, it's because we're the southernmost, I guess, closest to, the Lakewoods and Toms Rivers, as opposed to Freehold Township and Manalapan. So
just weird though. Central Regional is nowhere near Howell.
Yeah, Central Regional was a little odd for us, but again, we've played them before, or at least had a scrimmage before. He does a great job over there, so we know it's going to be a competitive game. But yes, different teams than we're usually playing. I mean, Jackson we've had over the last few years. Some games closer than others, but that's at the back end of the season. So really, that's our big motivation, our sell to our girls as well, is the fact of, we want to try to be able to compete with a team like Jackson Memorial. And I know they've had transfers and they've bulked up again, but we're up for that challenge. So we're hoping that all the time that was lost in the off season because of COVID, in the beginning of the season, hopefully we progress and grow as we should. And then as we get to the back end of this season, hopefully we're competitive and we can compete with Jackson.
Yeah, that's good. End of the year, gets your team, more chemistry between your team before, they probably are the top team in that pod. Absolutely. So it gives you more chemistry for when you do have that matchup. What other games were you able to add? Because I know schools were able to add a couple of games.
Well, to tell you the truth, what ended up happening was, we reached out to a bunch of schools. A lot of people already were matched up, or their ADs had talked to somebody before we even knew about it. So we were already going to match up with Freehold Township because now that we were no longer playing them. Yeah. And because of that little fun rivalry and it being close, it helps out with the COVID protocols. Yeah. So we figured we'd at least pick up one. So the boys did that as well. And then our boys also picked up Marlboro, and we were on board for that as well, but they had already had a game for their second game. So when we reached out to a few people, I think it ended up where Freehold Township actually said that they would play us, a home and away situation, just like we would have in A North, and we agreed to that. If not, it was going to be Manasquan. So, so one or the other. But, I know a lot of people were dodging them, so.
Yeah, I noticed a couple of the games they picked up are not non-sure teams. Yeah. So same thing with St. Rose. They picked up I think one, maybe two non-sure teams. I know one. I don't know if it was two. So all right, Coach, I appreciate you taking time out and joining me this afternoon. And I look forward. Now your team streams on YouTube, right? Because I think I put the link because I'm making a file.
Yeah, we posted the link yesterday. I think even someone had said that I guess people that were analyzing the quality of everybody's film that was up there, we at least got credit for having a clear film. But I can tell you this, I believe early next week they're setting up the cameras from Huddle in the gym. So we're going to be using a different camera. So it'll be off of Huddle. Same thing. It'll be put out to everybody for streaming. But the reason for that, which I know is the big complaint with a lot of schools, even though it was clear, people want to hear sound. Yeah. No one wants to watch a game in complete silence unless it's your kid.
I think that was Tiny who posted no sound, but he did say that the quality, besides no sound, the quality, right. And everybody understands, that this is why we're, one of the reasons preseason, trying to iron out those kinks.
Yeah. So I believe as far as next week, from what they're telling me up top in my school, that as soon as those are hooked up, we play Lakewood on Tuesday. And then we're there on Tuesday, home on Thursday. So hopefully by Thursday, when that is streamed out, we'll have, quality as far as the viewership, as well as, you'll be able to hear some sound on there as well.
Now, is it going to be on Huddle, or are you going to have it on the YouTube stream?
The school will probably just put it out, for whatever link it is, but it'll definitely be put out. But I will make sure I send that over to you so you're updated with all that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, because I got parents and
it is hard, and I feel bad for the parents, because especially even with not being able to go to the games, that's bad enough. But then you even think, it's not the biggest deal on the planet, but if you're watching your kid play and now all of a sudden you have to go pick them up, what are you doing? You're watching part of the game on your lap on your cell phone while you're waiting in the parking lot. And then, 15 minutes later when the game's over, your kid's coming out.
I've been there last year, leaving games and streaming games on my phone while I'm trying.
I guess you're going to figure out a way to do it. But, unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with. But, I said, you make the best of it. I told my girls yesterday, even with the scrimmage, I said, I don't know if we're going to go all 15 games this year. I don't know if it's going to end after this scrimmage. I said, but appreciate it. You get to play with your friends. You get to play in one of the greatest sports on the planet. And again, I might be a little biased from the girls' side of things, but I love the team aspect of it compared to some other sports, and I think it's awesome. But I said, just appreciate what you do get in front of you. Make it worth its while, and just go from there.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully, schools. I know a lot of schools had to reschedule already, but it's good to get it now. Whatever the protocol might be now, than in the middle of the season while you're in the thick of it.
Yeah, no, it's just rough because, like I said, even with the schools, different than the winter, not the winter, different than the fall. If a school goes remote, and at least from our side of things in Freehold Regional District, if we go remote for whatever reason, you're not allowed to do anything indoors. When you weren't allowed to come to school in the fall because the sports were outside, kids could just get dropped off out there, and you were still able to continue. So now we can't really do that. And that's the unfortunate thing. You don't want it to be our program anyway. That's the cause of it. But it could really be any student in the entire high school that if they're careless or maybe they just mess up, and they end up contracting it and everything gets shut down. It shuts down all the programs.
That's what Colleen at Wall, they're shut down. It was non-athlete, related.
Yeah, it hurts.
But she said their reason was they couldn't figure out the contact tracing, so they didn't want to take a chance that it was inside the school. So
you're always going to side on caution,
Yeah, which I understand, especially these administrators are in tough spots. So.
Yeah, I do not envy them in this situation, but
no, and I'll just say this before the state didn't help having a unified thing where every school, why does Freehold have to shut down, but Manasquan could still it just just using that as an example. But I understand administrators, they were put in a tough spot and they're just doing what they feel is the safest, and
all you can do is roll with the punches.
Yeah, and hopefully by next season everything is back to normal. We're all back in the gyms.
Yes.
So, all right, Joe, thank you for joining me, taking some time out of your day, and good luck to the season.
Thank you again. I appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you. Bye.